Live. Welcome everyone to Monk Radio. Today I'm broadcasting from our living room, so we're going to have a little bit of a background here. Because I've got a bit of an audience, at least one person, maybe two. So we've got camera set up over there, and using the notebook that was bought by the organization, and I've got a mic here. And we have Robin joining us from Massachusetts. Oh, Connecticut?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so welcome everyone. We already have 9 viewers and we have lots of questions on the moderator page. If you're coming here and you're wondering, where do I ask questions, because you're watching this on YouTube or whatever, or maybe you're watching this canned later on in the week, where to ask questions, there are 2 places to ask questions. You should be able to just ask them on the video itself. I think you might have to be on the desktop to do it, but somewhere on the video there will be an annotation where you click and you can actually, it says join, something like that. Those questions will pop up on our screen here. So some of you know that and have been doing it regularly. The other way, if you're asking canned questions, or if you're wondering where we're getting all the questions from, you go to radio.sirimangalo.org, which is the homepage for this broadcast, radio.sirimangalo.org. And there is a link to the Google Moderator series, which we've been using for quite a while now, that has currently 80 some active questions I haven't got around to. So I've been away for a while. Was a bit sick and had a sore throat, so we cancelled. And last week I was in Vancouver, so we cancelled again. This might be our last broadcast. I'll try to broadcast again next week. It might be the last one before I go away, because I'm going to start packing things up. I'm planning to bring the Pro camera to Thailand with me, so I might be able to do, well, so I'll be able to do some ordinary recordings, but I'll also probably be bringing this machine here with me, and maybe, I don't know, there's a webcam on it, that's probably good enough. Can I switch between webcams here? Let's see. Do I dare? Hey, it works. You can just switch. Do you see me close up now?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's neat. So I could potentially get, if I had a producer, I could potentially have them switching camera on the audience and one camera on me, and they could switch back and forth. I need a producer. Robin, when are you going to shave that hair? Okay, I'm joined here by Anna, who was the recent star of a brief documentary, well, interview on what it's like to do a meditation course here. She finished her course, and she's just came back today. There was one other person who was going to join us, but they're not here yet, so I think we'll just start without them. So welcome everyone, 19 viewers now. Let's get started. Robin, you want to start us off with some of the questions that we have stocked up?
Sure. If everything is transient and
Do you
doesn't
want
have
to? Do we want to put? What was the consensus? Did we want to put them up on the screen like the other ones?
Sure, I can do that. Just one moment. Just have to assign it to YouTube.
Okay, and the other thing is, I think I'm just going to record every question. So hopefully you're loud enough. I have to make you really loud. Oh, I guess that's good enough. Here we are. Okay. Can you talk? Say hello, hello.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yes. Hello, hello.
Okay, that's good enough.
Okay.
As long as I can hear it in the recording. All right. So, what do we think? Are we going to put the questions up Q&A?
Yes, just
Copy and
one
paste
moment.
them.
Sorry.
We don't have to if it's. That would be neat. Are you able to do that?
I'm sorry, I'm just getting a lot of feedback. It just took me one moment to get this set.
How do you... to ask questions, you have to actually go to the Hangout or something? Or to the... You'll get feedback. We need a third person. We need someone who's not in the Hangout. Anyway, forget it then. You just say it, and you say it. Why do we need to read it, right? Don't bother. It's not...
Okay.
It's gonna get
Yeah,
confusing anyway.
I'm sorry. Every time I do it, I'm getting a lot of feedback.
No,
So
it's a bad
yeah.
idea. I think
Okay.
questions
I'll
are
just
there. You're gonna say it, so we've got it. It's all good.
okay.
Okay, go
If
ahead.
everything is transient and
Wait.
doesn't have
Start again. Start again.
sure. If
Oh,
everything is
wait.
trans
Okay.
Hi Anna.
Go ahead.
If everything is transient and doesn't have any intrinsic value, how do we differentiate between right and wrong, and why should we do that? If certain things do have value, then what constitutes it? And how do we know that they have it?
I like this question. It's important. It was something we were actually discussing recently. Meaning, purpose. It's come up a few times, but just today there was a discussion. With these questions that try to give a definitive answer to some core philosophical problem like meaning, purpose, right, wrong, to understand that we aren't in a position to make such um, to hold such views. We think we are, and this is the problem. We approach philosophy from the point of view that here I am, a clean slate, and I'm going to decide what my views are, what is right, what is wrong, and so on. It's not like that, and that's where Buddhism acts upon the principle that we are mired in craving, in desire. So we have this desire. It's not what is right and what is wrong. The question is, how do we free ourselves from the suffering that turns out to be caused by desire? So once you get to the point where you've freed yourself from craving, no, well, that there is no value judgment whatsoever. Such a person lives life as a function, and so actually does hold the view of rejecting the value of everything. So finding no value in anything, and therefore having no sense, in one sense, wrong. A person who is enlightened acts rightly, appears to act rightly from an external point of view, simply because every action is free from any desire, any partiality, any motivation for future avoidance of positive or negative stimuli. So the problem with that idea is you can't just simply assume that as a view. It just doesn't work, and that's why people they say, well, Buddhism says there's no purpose, so then why not just do anything? But that's assuming that you could just take on the view that there is nothing, that there is there's no point to anything, and then act upon your desires, which is a contradiction, because if you have desires, you put value in something. The point is to realize that the problem is putting value on things. The problem is our craving, and that concepts of right and wrong are either in terms of our desires, so in terms of thinking it's right because it gets you what you want, which in fact is kind of a Buddhist point of view, but also, or maybe more Buddhist, is something is right if it frees you from partiality, or this kind of duality of good, of purposeful, meaningless, and so on. So the idea that something is intrinsically right or intrinsically wrong, a product of our desires or our projections. So so round in circles too much. Just right, wrong, purpose, meaning, the products of the complication or the complexity of our deluded state. That doesn't mean that you should reject them. You can't reject these, because if you reject right and wrong, you're rejecting, first of all, on the one hand, the ideas of what brings you happiness and what brings you suffering, right? And that doesn't work because it's in conflict with your desires. You desire happiness, so if you ignore right and wrong, you can never find that. You can never come to terms with that desire, or you can never be free from that desire. And also, well, yeah, and on the other side, in a different way, almost the same. You can never get closer to freeing yourself from right and wrong. You see, right being a path that leads you to freedom, which actually destroys concepts of right and wrong being that which keeps you tied up in the ideas of intrinsic value, intrinsic worth, intrinsic right and wrong. So the important thing is to separate between ultimate reality and conventional. And conventionally, right and wrong are very important. Or from where we start now in our deluded state, it's important to understand right and wrong. You can't. We have to stop. What would happen if everyone became enlightened? Then the population, there would be no humans, and the world would, the human society would fall apart, because the implied question there is that there's something wrong with that. But the person saying that there's something wrong with all beings, all human beings becoming enlightened, and the extinguishing of the human race, the idea that that's wrong comes from the unenlightened mind, the mind that has craving. So indeed, if all beings were free from craving, then were to cease, it's meaningless. To such a person, there's no application of meaning. This is a similar case where people say, how could you live without right, wrong, purpose? Wouldn't that make you depressed? Wouldn't that make you even evil? If you have no sense of right and wrong, wouldn't that make you evil? So you're talking about two different states. A person who has no concept of meaning, right, desire for anything, has no possibility of becoming depressed. Depression, evil, all of these things come from attachment, come from actual misunderstanding or belief in the existence of purpose, value, meaning, right, wrong. This is where these things come from. So to say that if you had no sense of value, purpose, right, wrong, that you would just be immoral or or be depressed or whatever, is confusing. Is a confusion? No, a conflation. No, is getting the two states confused, and is actually false. A person with truly no sense of purpose or meaning would never have any cause to get depressed or upset at all. Anyway, I hope that I mean it's clear in my mind. Just it's an interesting question. Anyway, there you go.
Next question.
Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you are focusing on your breath, should you keep a peripheral awareness to your passing thoughts? Because I found that if I'm deeply aware of the breath or another object, I just notice a thought after it has passed and not in the moment.
Well, no, the problem isn't that you're too focused on the breath. The problem is that your mind's still, well, it's not even a problem, but it's not the ideal mind state. Of course, the ideal mind state is freedom from thought, even freedom from breath. I mean, the ideal mind state is extinguishing, when there is release or freedom. But the problem that you have is that your lack of mindfulness is not allowing you to catch the thought when it starts. It has nothing to do with being too absorbed in the breath. When you're watching the breath, mindful, if you're clearly aware, you should be able to see as soon as the thought arises, and as soon as the thought arises, you'll be able to acknowledge it as thinking. It's true that you can't actually be aware of an object as it's happening. Or you can't actually be mindful of an object as it's happening. The object arises, and there's the awareness, and then there's the mindfulness. So you're actually technically not mindful of something at the moment that it occurs, but it's so quick. It's thought moments. It's one thought moment and the next thought moment. But the fact that you can't catch it until after it's over is a sign that during that thought there was lack of mindfulness. Each thought moment until you caught it was a mind with delusion in it. So that being the case, I would suggest that your attention on the breath was void of wisdom and void of mindfulness. So perhaps had delusion. If there is a deluded mind state, the breath, even watching the breath, there will be conceit, there will be view of self, there will be craving. As a result, the thought, the moment of the thought arising will come without awareness of the thought, and that's how you get carried away. Practically speaking, a beginner will only catch the thoughts at the end after you've thought through the whole subject. A advanced meditator, as they progress, they'll be able to catch the thoughts earlier and earlier and earlier. And a meditator who is truly in the zone will be able to catch the thoughts as soon as they arise. So the thought arises in the mind, the meditator is aware that the thought arose, just one thought subject, and then it ceases. And the meditator comes back to the main object. So no, you shouldn't keep tabs on something else while you're focusing on a main object, and no, it isn't caused by the breath. It's caused by delusion, which may be indicative of improper observation of the breath. So starting out from a deluded state, which carries on into the thought, allows the thought to, so to speak. Okay.
Okay.
Next question.
Next question. I focus on the nostrils instead of the rising and falling of the belly since I've started meditation. Are there any downsides?
I've never used the nostrils, so I'm going either by hearsay or by what's the word? conjecture. By hearsay, the Visuddhimagga says that the nostrils or mindfulness of breathing becomes more and more refined as you go. The only reason, categorical reason, or reason for reason that was given for using the stomach is that in Burma, mindfulness of breathing is understood to take place, and mindfulness of breathing is considered a samatha meditation. It's considered a meditation that starts off leading you through the jhanas and later on can be used to bring about vipassana. But technically, it's a person who practices samatha first and then vipassana. Our technique we practice starting with vipassana. So it was simply in order to avoid the accusation. These are the words of Mahasi Sayadaw. In order to avoid the accusation that he was teaching samatha, he switched to, and it may not have been him, it may have been his teacher, but they switched to, he says that they switched to the stomach. The reason for it, the reason for needing to use or for deciding to use the stomach is that the Visuddhimagga says that a person who practices vipassana should start by focusing on the 4 elements, which make up the physical aspect of experience. So the earth element is the feeling of hardness and softness. The air element is the feeling of pressure or flaccidity. The fire element is the feeling of heat and cold. And the water element is the cohesion that keeps things together, or that makes things stick together. In this case, this is the air element. That's regards to the texts and theory and as I said, hearsay. So textual arguments. Conjecture. It seems to me that because this one becomes more and more refined, and based on, I guess, also hearsay, what I've heard from meditators, watching the nostril can be quite soothing. And as a result of it refined, there's the tendency, or there appears to be the tendency, to lead towards samatha. A person who practices mindfulness at the nostrils, I would conjecture, is more likely, and from what I've seen and discussed with meditators who insist on using it, more likely to lead to samatha meditation. It's not wrong. It's just tends to be more. You have to eventually get the meditator to focus it on it as. But it would generally be after they've already entered into the jhanas, which takes time. The stomach, on the other hand, being a coarse and rather large object, is is an obvious or leads to the clear awareness of ultimate reality quite quickly. And there's no opportunity for the arising of calm watching the stomach. And this is a problem that people have with this meditation. They think it's wrong, they think it's bad, they think there's a problem because they don't feel calm, because they don't feel peaceful. But watching the stomach, you're going to see impermanence, suffering, and non-self quite quickly. You're going to get quickly into issues of having to or suffer. It's a question of it leading directly to. It's not that there's disadvantages. It's just a tendency to lead to samatha first, lead to tranquility first. Whereas the practice that we do is more like insight first and subsequent tranquility. Okay. Probably try to keep these a little bit short. See how we can get through a bunch. Let's Let's switch to some of the live questions, shall we?
Sure.
Oh, I don't.
Bante,
Okay, I'm not gonna do a video on this one, but I'll answer it.
okay. Bante, how was your experience of visiting Sri Lanka? What words of advice would you give to someone seeking to ordain and live in Sri Lanka?
I like, especially as a monk. Um, Someone trying to ordain there from it's a terribly difficult thing. See, the catch-22, as with Thailand, more or less, is that how do I start this? In order to ordain, you need the right visa. You need a visa that is going to allow you to um, extend to get a 1-year residence visa, a 1-year monastic residence visa. So you can't just arrive. If you arrive on a 1-month visa, I fought tooth and nail going to see all sorts of high-level government officials and wasn't able to. The only way I was able to manage to convert that to a 1-month visa for my students was to get the visa officer guy really angry, not intentionally, but he got really angry and sent us right up to the head immigration guy who and said, don't ever do this again. And he said, don't ever do this again, but this one time. And sure enough, the guy at the top just signed it and gave us the extension, I think, if I remember correctly. Again, the second time, and he remembered us, and it wasn't possible. That, no way. So you need to get a special visa first. The catch-22 is that in order to get that special visa, you have to already have the approval of the monastery that you're going to ordain at. And I don't know whether this is actually a catch-22, but the part of the catch, they will only give you that approval after they've met you and after you've gone to visit them. So it's not exactly a way out of it is. And as far as I understand, the only way to there's 2 ways, I suppose. The first one would be meet a Sri Lankan monk in a foreign country and have them approve you for ordination and write you such a letter as you can take to get a special visa that says, I accept this man or woman for ordination. They're going to come and ordain at my monastery. Give them a visa. Or the second option is to go to Sri Lanka, practice and study under some monk who's going to ordain you, get the letter of permission, leave the country, go back to your country, get the special visa, and come back with that special visa. It's not even that simple because it's not just a letter. Anyway, I don't know if this is exactly the answer you want. I don't know if I should get into detail. Basically, it's really tough to get the monastic that good for you, but very difficult to get the visa unless you're already ordained. If you're ordained, then it's no problem. You can, well, even if you're ordained, it's still quite difficult. Or I found myself having terrible difficulties. So that's the one problem with Sri Lanka is the bureaucracy there really sucks. I don't really understand the rationale behind making it so difficult for monks to come and live there, especially since they seem to have a rather paucity shortage of monks there. So if there's a few really good places to ordain. In fact, there's one place that might help you help cross some is Nauyana, because the head of Nauyana has some connections with monasteries. It has some connections with the government. Someone's making noise. Who's got their volume on? Aaron, can you, your mic's on. You're muted and I still hear you. Aaron?
Yes?
It's funny, you're muted, but I still hear you. You have to turn.
Yeah, I'm definitely muted.
Yeah, but you're not. I hear you.
Well, not now because I took it off, but I was muted.
Can you mute or at least maybe mute yourself unless you're going to talk, because you got some background noise there.
Well, when I got into the Hangout, I was muted, so I don't know.
There you go. I've got controls. But that's not very nice. I don't know why I can't just mute you. It doesn't let me. Well, I'll keep it up. That's fine. I don't mind. Whatever. Some background noise. Just be aware, if you've got a mic, just be aware that we're broadcasting, and your every move is being broadcast over the internet. So keep calm. Okay. So that was that question, I think. I don't want to get bogged down with these questions. I'm sorry. If you want advice about languages and places, this isn't really the place. Sorry. I know you need answers, but I'm not really the person to give them. Okay, let's go with this one.
In a sitting position at the beginning of the meditation, I cannot feel my stomach rising, falling at all.
Wait, let's do
so this is an ultimate...
just let me do a video here. I forgot.
Oh, sure.
Okay, go ahead.
In a sitting meditation, at the beginning of the meditation, I cannot feel my stomach rising or falling at all. So this is an ultimate reality for me. Can I start my meditation with another acknowledgement, like sitting?
Yes, absolutely. If the rising and falling is not clear, you can just say sitting, or useful is to on your stomach, because once you calm down, it should be. For my first bit of meditation, I wasn't able to experience it as well. Sometimes it does just disappear. Acknowledge sitting. But eventually it'll come back. Eventually, once you calm down, you should be able to feel it. Okay, these aren't questions. This guy... We don't need... Well, okay, whatever. I'm just going to delete them. Here's a question. Well, it's just an extension of our discussion, so I won't make a video. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry.
How can it
be? Blue is... Oh, okay. How can it not be intrinsically wrong if there is killing involved? Buddha says no killing.
Well, killing is wrong, but part of what I didn't say, because it would have kind of got us off track, is that in a sense, right and wrong are just... The meaning behind the word right and wrong is contradictory, or in line, complementary. So a person who wants to be happy, but who acts in a way as to bring about unhappiness, is acting contrary to their desires. That's, in a sense, the definition in Buddhism of evil. The definition is that which is complement. So acting in accordance with one's desires. If one wants to be happy, one acts in a way that brings about happiness. So killing is a product of a mind state that is suffering, that is corrupt, is partial, is deluded, is of an angry mind. So that's the only reason why it's wrong. In fact, the act of killing itself isn't what is wrong, it's the intention, the mind state that leads one to want to kill.
I sometimes have difficulty in accepting that majority
Wait a
seeks.
I really need a producer. I wasn't recording there. Okay. Right, I wasn't recording. I knew I wasn't.
Did you want to do that over?
I need you to be my producer. No, it's okay. Next time. You have to watch this time. Next time you're going to...
Okay.
You can be my camera person. You know how to use a video camera?
It's really good if you...
It's just one button, actually.
Oh.
Start, stop.
Next question. I sometimes have difficulty in accepting that majority seeks for nirvana or to be united with God. But when death comes, or there is a threat of death, everyone is afraid and runs for life without caring for the next person.
Well, those who truly seek out freedom wouldn't act in such a way. You're talking about people who are unable to achieve that goal of attaining freedom. Being united with God, by the way, is different. I don't have any comment on it. But as far as freedom or nirvana goes, a person who is truly seeking for it has to go in the direction of not running from suffering and so on.
Yeah, my bandwidth is better now, so I'm able to copy over the questions from Google, if that's okay, or if you wanted to just stick with the live.
Yeah, it's good to have it in front of me because I don't have the moderator list in front of me, so if I can read it, that's good.
Yep, yeah, I can do that now.
Okay, go ahead.
I have the tendency to be mindful on what I'm hearing, thinking, instead of being mindful that I'm hearing. For example, when I'm hearing a sound, I focus more on the sound, like a musician, than being mindful. Is it wrong to do that?
Well, focus isn't practice. It depends what your goal is. If your goal is just to be focused or calm, then sure, that's enough. If your goal is to understand the nature of reality, then focus isn't the point. So simply focusing isn't of any value to us in and of itself. It's like focusing the camera but not taking the shot. You don't actually register the experience. And so there's still room for the three, what we call the dhammas that masquerade as knowledge, which are ditthi, mana, and tanha. Ditthi means views, so there's still room for views of self, there's still room for mana, and still room for craving. So yeah, focusing on the sound isn't the problem. The hearing is one way of describing it. Sound is another way of describing it. But the actual practice of sati is to remind yourself that this is sound, this is hearing. So if you say to yourself, hearing or sound, it doesn't matter, but you have to use that reminder in our tradition. obviously different teachers say different things about this. So it depends who you're talking to and what meditation you're practicing.
In your booklet, there is the instruction, the mantra should not be at the mouth or in the head. Whenever I note something, it appears in my head as a thought. When I'm tired, I'm thinking, tired, tired, tired. Is this important? Thank you.
Well, when you get better at it, the thought is really in the object. The head and thinking is usually a product of people who are accustomed to thinking a lot. And so when given this sort of exercise, the untrained mind's only way of implementing it is to create it as a thought in the head. I mean, when I started, I was actually seeing the words like they were pasted to the inside of my forehead and getting headaches. Part of why people think it's in the head is because in the beginning they often get tension from forcing themselves to be with the object, and so they confuse that with the actual acknowledgement. They think I'm acknowledging in my head, but they're not. The head is just giving rise to tension or exhibiting tension. The person's tense, forceful, controlling mind state. But it's all just a matter of lack of proficiency. Once you get better at it, the thoughts themselves natural, become a part of the experience. So it's just experiencing it as it is. It's the tone is different, and it's like as though you're saying it in your head, or in your foot, or saying it in your stomach. The only time it should be in the head is when you're acknowledging pain or aching or tension or feeling and so on in the head.
How long do you think it takes to get to that point?
Turn on the lights over there. Just turn so that all the lights are on.
How long would you say it takes to get to that point?
Well, you're not always at that point, but you can get to it after a few days of intense meditation, but it'll be one-off at that point. And then you're back to doing it improper. I'm not recording, you can come through. Yeah, it can take, well, I would say if you do the full foundation course, by the end, you're definitely in that state. Near the end, you're in the zone, we would say. Okay, I got one by J. Ray.
What is the use of having statues of the Buddha?
It's a means of recollecting on the Buddha, remembering the Buddha, with Buddha statues. And they can be dangerous if people misunderstand them. But they're an object of reflection and veneration, and respect, and some good qualities. I think people get a little bit carried away with it.
When I meditate, more than one thing comes up at a time.
Let me start. Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, go.
When I meditate, more than one thing comes up at a time, 3 or more usually. How should I approach to making a clear thought? They move so fast I can't keep up with mantras. Should I skip mantra and just try to be aware of it without clear thought?
No, pick whatever is clearest. In the case where there are multiple objects, the meditator is instructed to not be too concerned about which object they focus on, but try to is most prevalent, most clear. Yeah, just being aware of it in our tradition isn't enough. Aussie, Helsinki, Finland poster response. Okay.
Does the mind have a gender, or is it only a property of the body?
Gender is only a property of the body. Good question, really. I mean, people don't realize that, but yeah. Gender actually, in Buddhism, it's a physical, it's called Itindriya, and I think Purisindriya, I think, is the other one. So females have physical female faculty, males have the male, and I suppose you could conjecture that some people have both or neither. I don't really know how it works, but the important point is that yes, it's only physical. There is no mental aspect to gender. As to first of all how the physical affects the mental, because the female physical faculty produces certain chemicals, and the male faculty produces different chemicals, and those chemicals affect the mind differently. And to some extent, I think, I'm not a biologist, but they affect the mind in different ways, and so condition the person's mind in different ways. This is why you would expect that females exhibit certain characteristics, whereas males exhibit certain different characteristics in general, because of the influence of the different chemicals, I would say. Among other things, of course, the physical characteristics, differences between the female body and the male body, will also affect one's behavior indirectly through conditioning. And then on top of it, you have culture, and that highly specializes gender roles and gender expectations and so on. Gender, the way we look at gender. And all of that, of course, has a profound impact on the mind.
This question is for moderator, but it could have come from me as well, but it didn't.
Okay, go ahead.
Bhante, I have questions. What is the recommended method of ridding oneself of an annoying song playing in one's head during meditation? I suffered from an old Bowie song for almost 2 weeks. Should I refrain from music and film in the future?
It is actually two different questions. How to get rid of the song and whether you should refrain. Because there's actually nothing wrong with the song. You're not plagued by... Did you say plagued? I suffer. You're not suffering from the song. Not any more than you suffer not having the song in your head. The song itself is no more suffering than any other experience. The suffering comes from your desire to be free from it, your desire to not have the song playing in your head constantly, repeatedly, and so on. And that comes from a misunderstanding or a delusion of self, the idea that you can somehow control that, the idea that somehow it is you that is experiencing that song, comes from the frustration of thinking you can stop it. Once you see impermanent suffering and non-self, it won't bother you that there are songs playing in your head, if there are songs playing in your head. No, the reason you should probably refrain from music and film is the dulling dulling quality it has to cultivate delusion, the addictive quality that it has to create greed, and therefore to create anger when you don't get what you want, or as in this case when it arises in your head. So it's not the fact that it's arising in your head that it is that you should stop watching movies or listening to music. It's the fact that you become irritable when it isn't according to your desire, and that irritation, and that delusion as well, thinking that you can somehow control it, is related to your addiction to film and music and entertainment and anything that's addictive in general.
Also not fun to be held captive, like at work when someone has the radio on and...
Why not? What's wrong with that?
Well, today was country music. I was not enjoying it.
No, today was sound that arose at the ear.
Yes.
I know it's tough.
Hi, Bhante. When noting various thoughts, such as rising and falling, is it better to simply draw awareness?
Wait, let me put it up.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Bhante. When noting various thoughts, such as rising and falling, is it better to simply draw awareness to the thought or to state the word in one's mind?
Draw awareness to the thought. I don't know what the meaning is of either of those, really. I don't know how you would draw your awareness to the thought. Oh, wait. Yeah, no, I don't know how you would do that. Noting various thoughts. I wouldn't worry about such things. I would, the problems that you have with the noting and with the practice simply come from inexperience. Eventually you figure it out. You get it. You realize what the benefit is, what the purpose is. You see what leads you to clarity of mind and what leads to suffering. And so your acknowledgement naturally becomes beneficial, and you just get better. It's like kind of like playing tennis. You'll know when the ball goes over the net. I always bring up tennis because tennis was like a nightmare for me, learning how to play, and it was about how to move your racket, how to lift the ball, and I could never hit it, and so on. You'll know when it goes over the net. So you'll know when it works. And in the beginning, it's just a lot of practice and testing and figuring it out. With any training, it's like that. Training with trainings like this, any intricate training, and this is like the most refined training. It's really a skill that you have to work at maybe for years. I mean, the point is, when you're truly mindful, the moment when you're truly mindful is the moment when you attain the Arhats, and that moment is the door to cessation. That's the moment where you realize nirvana. So up until that point, you're really just practicing, refining, honing your skill, still not doing it right, until you get to that moment where you're right and you actually see clearly. So up until that point, we're practicing. Okay.
While not meditating, should life itself be a continuous meditation, like driving to work, saying driving, driving, or getting fired, saying angry, angry, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why we can't is the same reason why we're still in a life where we drive cars and get fired from jobs. A person who is able to do that, where they're mindful all the time, wouldn't have a job, wouldn't be driving a car most likely. So in a sense, the question is another one of these conflating two issues. Trying to apply one thing that should be applied to another thing. So somewhat you think, wow, I could never imagine being mindful all the time during my life, and you literally couldn't, because the reason why you're not able to be mindful all the time is the greed, anger, and delusion. That same greed, anger, and delusion is also the reason why you're still in a life that is caught up in the world. Once you get free from your attachments and your and delusions and views and all that, you'll give up that life, and so life becomes quite simple. Life becomes about now. Now I'm sitting. So sitting is easy. Now I'm walking. Maybe now I'm talking, eating. And so it's actually not that complicated. Certainly doable. For in the meantime, you're just trying to get yourself in that state. Bring the meditative state to your life. Your life is over here with all the craziness. The meditative state is over here. You're trying to bring them together, and sometimes you're able to bring them together, and then they go apart, and it's a matter of training. But eventually, your life is a meditation. Your life just gets a lot simpler. Your life can't stay over here. It has to meet in the center. But yeah, when you get fired, you should say angry, angry. It's good. You shouldn't get angry in the first place, but if you're angry. Okay, go.
Dear Bhante, I am seeking to understand.
Not that one. Can there be desire?
Oh, okay. I don't see anything selected, so I just picked the top one. Okay. Can there be desire that isn't harmful?
It's semantics. I can't really answer this question because you have to tell me what you mean by desire. I don't think there can, because I define desire as actually wanting something. Even that is ambiguous. There are very few cases where the words wanting or desire could be used that I wouldn't call a case of craving, and therefore. But those few cases do exist, like a person who desires to be free from suffering, a person who wants to practice meditation. They're used in I believe the word is a semantic sense, not a literal sense, figurative sense maybe. In certain cases, a person can express those desires and wants without actually wanting or desiring anything. It's a figure of speech. So when I say I want to practice meditation, it may not be that I actually want that experience, but it's a way of saying that now I'm going to practice meditation because I have the wisdom to know that meditation is the right thing to do at this point. But I don't know that to be desire. So I would consider every desire is harmful. But there are big arguments about this that are really just, so it's kind of silly. Okay, J. Ray.
Are you selecting them?
Yes, are you not seeing them select?
I'm not, no. The one that is showing still selected on my screen is still when noting various thoughts. That was a couple of questions ago.
One by J. Ray. I had the same question. Are you not getting updates?
I'm sorry, I'm not. Let me try something.
Oh, no, she's gone. I take the opportunity to recognize our... Oh, Anthony's gone. Well, we've got Aaron and Naga. Thanks for joining us. I don't suppose you guys want to take a turn asking questions?
If you'd like me to read something, I can. But it looks like Robin's back, so.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay. You know what you need, Aaron? You need a better microphone, I think. You're using your laptop microphone or something?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it's got a lot of background noise and it's very loud. Well.
Okay, sorry about that. I do have the updates now.
Okay, go ahead.
I had the same
Oh, wait.
question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I had the same question as Brenna. Is it necessary for me to subvocalize a description of the object I am aware of? I am able to perceive objects without necessarily naming them. Sometimes finding an English word to fit the thought is distracting.
Again, this is only because you're untrained, because it's new, because it's something that you're probably not very good at, which is natural when you first start something. Eventually you get better at recognizing things as they are, and really there's not that many experiences that after a good many hours of doing this, you get pretty good at finding names for just about everything. I mean, it's not like there's millions of different words that you could possibly have to use. But we don't call it subvocalizing. We call it reminding yourself, which is indeed how we understand the word sati, which does literally mean to remember in the sense of the object. Instead of going the next step of liking or disliking it, you say to yourself, you say, instead of saying this is good, this is bad, you say this is this. That's the mindfulness is actually reminding yourself. Like mindfulness of the Buddha is to remind yourself of the Buddha, to remember the Buddha. And but you do that by saying to yourself, Buddho, Buddho, Bhagava, Bhagava, Arahang, Arahang. It's all the qualities of the Buddha that remind you of the Buddha, so keep you focused on the idea of the Buddha. With mindfulness of the body, you do the same, but you remind of the body and so on. Otherwise, we don't consider it in this tradition to be meditation. We consider it just sitting there zoning out, which isn't kamatana, it isn't training, it isn't insight meditation. Not in our tradition.
How do you perceive your existence and meditation in relation to the rest of the universe and all the other entities within? Are you mindful of the vastness on a daily basis?
No.
Dear Bhante, I am seeking to
Wow, that was
understand.
rude. No, I didn't mean to be quite so shy. It's not what we teach, it's not what we practice, so no. There are traditions that do. This tradition doesn't. We focus on ourselves, focus on mundane experience. Anything else, the idea of the universe is conjecture, it's conceptual in the mind. It's not real. Real is experience, here and now. That's the only thing that we can ever. It's on a level. It's categorically different from the level that the universe is real on. The universe is only real on a. But experience is real on a whole other level, and so that's why we focus on experience. Okay, go ahead.
Dear Bhante, I am seeking to understand the state of mind of an Arhat. Is it a state of knowing everything about reality, or can a subset about reality that could vary from person to person? What would be the lowest common denominator?
An arahant is not someone who knows everything. A fully enlightened Buddha is someone who has unobstructed knowledge. So it's kind of like knowing everything, except it's knowing whatever you want to know. So apparently the Buddha was able to find an answer to every question that he posed, every question that was posed to him. Knowledge that was required there was an unobstructed access to it. But for an Arhat, that's not the case. In fact, the point is that a better point is that no one can know everything, because knowing everything implies knowing two things at once. You can never know more than one thing. But the Buddha had unobstructed knowledge. An Arhat only knows four things, and that's the Four Noble Truths. They have the realization of the Four Noble Truths. More importantly, they know enough to free themselves from suffering. An Arahant has to let go of everything. Only a Buddha has to know everything. It's the difference. Go ahead.
After watching many of your videos,
Well, where are you
I'm
going?
sorry. I'm sorry.
Ah.
I tried to anticipate and I got it wrong. If I'd like to explore Buddhism and there are no Buddhist centers close,
Oh,
how
wait.
can I?
Yeah. I need a producer. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. If I would like to explore Buddhism and there are no Buddhist centers close, how can I get going?
Watch all my videos, read my booklet. If you're asking me, I've got lots of stuff out there for you. And then once you've done all that, start studying the Buddha's teaching, reading all of the suttas and all of the things that the Buddha actually taught. It's a good start. Come and do a full meditation course with us. Join the ranks of graduates.
And kind of along those same lines, after watching many of your videos, I would like to introduce meditation practice into my life. However, I would like to begin doing so by going to a retreat. Is there some place where I can find good information about them, and any that you recommend?
Sorry, technical difficulties. It depends where in the world you are. You know, like giving recommendations. You know, how do I? It varies from place to place. If you happen to be in a place where or situation where you're able to come and practice in Ontario, Canada, then I would suggest coming here. And you can go to our website at srimangalo.org. That's the best. You know, rather than me talking about other places, I'm going to stick to my rock. If you want to come and practice with us, I can direct you. Go to srimangalo.org. There should be enough directions there to contact us and to get out here, find us. Okay, go ahead.
Should you communicate with your parents if they engage in illegal drugs, go to jail frequently, have dangerous friends, and constantly feed their defilements? Thank you.
I think it's even more important that you communicate with your parents, but it's not so much about communicating, a presence in their lives. A great part of our direction in life has to do with the people we associate with. The Buddha said association with good people is the key of the holy life. It's everything. And so if you're the only good that they have in their life, then by all means you have to stick to that, cling to that fact, and be that good thing in their lives. But of course you have to be strong. A better question would be, should you communicate with your parents if you're angry, frustrated, worried, scared about the fact that they engage in illegal drugs, go to jail frequently, etc., etc., etc.? In that case, no, you've got a problem. If you react to or maybe if you're also engaging in those things, then you're a bad influence in their lives. But just the fact that they are engaging in all the things isn't in and of itself a reason not to interact with them, unless it's affecting you as well. So in a sense, you have to balance here, because you have some kind of potential duty towards your parents in a conventional sense. In a real sense, you have a debt to them for whatever good they did for you. But you have to balance that with your own well-being and with in the circumstances and reality of the situation. If being around them is not helping you and is not helping them, which in the end turn out to be very much the same thing, then probably step back. But if you find that it's helpful for both you and them, for you to be near them, then yes, by all means, um, continue. And I guess the point is that you often can't get away from your parents, and so rather than wishing you could get away from them, you should be steadfast and mindful. The only way you can really get away from people is by working out your karmic involvement with them. Maybe that's not even fair, because you can break through that by attaining enlightenment. You can free yourself from your karmic, even potential future karmic involvement. So yeah, I mean, in the end, you can break free from them. There's nothing wrong with not having contact with people. You shouldn't feel, hey, maybe something's wrong. Why am I'm not involved at all with anyone. But you shouldn't feel that. There's no reason to be involved with any certain individual. But our attachments that are often due to feelings of gratitude and indebtedness towards our parents, it's very strong, and it tends to lead us back to them. It led Sariputta back to his mother. Before he passed away, he went back to see his mother, and he was already an Arhat. Because he wanted to, he thought, how can I go into parinibbana without, how can I leave the world without having helped my own mother? But I guess the point is that there's no hard and fast rule. You often this question is asked when actually the case is that you're trying to get away from them and feeling bad that you can't, that you're always pulled in. But if you're pulled in, it means you're a part of the situation, and you have to extricate yourself from the situation through mindfulness, not through running away. It won't help. It won't make things better. You'll just end up running back to them once you pendulum back and forth. Okay.
Difference between meditation object and meditation. No?
I'm deleting that one. It doesn't make sense to me.
Sorry.
But we already answered. It's the same question as before. I'm going to go through these a little quickly because we got lots of questions. Handling anger. Well, I've got videos on that. A lot of questions can be answered just by watching my videos. General questions: how do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? I've already got over 1,000 videos, or maybe I've got exactly 1,000. I've got at least 1,000 videos. I'm just arbitrarily deleting now because, geez, I've answered a lot of questions over the years. I think I'm going to... Do we have any more good questions? Okay, there's one. Pick some good ones. That one. I don't know.
Like this one here?
I haven't read it yet. Go ahead, read it. Let's go. I trust you.
Okay. Bhante, hope you are well. My biggest fear is to lose my mother to death. I know we have to accept it. She is not mine, but the fear is still haunting me even in my dreams. Please help me understand with your words. Thank you so much.
Well, to love your mother is a good thing. There's good there. I think you kind of have to separate that out. And this is what people who have strong sense of family are able to do. And so no matter how they claim that they understand concepts of non-self and detachment, they really do feel that it's good to be attached to their parents. Deep down, it's very much a part of their idea of themselves to be afraid of losing your mother. Afraid to lose your mother. Maybe that's a good way to approach this. You're not afraid of losing your mother. This fear arises from time to time, probably with some frequency. Fear doesn't haunt you. And thinking of it in these terms will help you to align your mind in order to deal with it. It will also help you to see clearly what's going on. It's not just the fear. There's also a love of your mother, gratitude towards your mother, attachment to your mother. All of those things are also present. And those things probably fuel the fear. Well, most definitely fuel the fear. Yes, so all of those are the constituents, and they're all being held together by this view of self. You see how these defilements work? They play different roles. View of self holds it together, so you say, this is me, afraid to lose my mother. But actually, once you let go of that, and you say, okay, fear arose, it's only this part. There's also the attachment. There's also the love. And you're able to separate them out. And in the end, you are able to free yourself from the bad ones because you see they're the real problem. You see clearly that's not healthy. I know is bad, and so you remove that from the equation. And when what we're left with is only the good stuff. So there's love, there's gratitude, there's compassion and joy and equanimity. There's wisdom, there's insight, and your relationship with your mother becomes wholesome. And there's no sense of fear or sadness in regards to loss of your mother. Okay, so remove the idea of self, get just the idea of, and you'll be able to break it up into its parts, see the many parts, and as a result deal with it. That's insight meditation in a nutshell. Okay, I'm going to take these. I'll take these two questions that you have, and I'm not sure about that third one that Dylan put up. Sorry, I can be quite harsh with my deleting, but I'll try to be compassionate and consider the question. Let's go with the ones that Robin chose first, because they're plussed.
I have a lot of fear inside me. I feel inferior and superior to others at the same time, and I cannot make friends easily because I feel everyone criticizes me. I cannot feel intimacy with others. Does meditating help to diminish my ego? Thank you.
Yes, meditation does help to diminish your ego. You don't have fear. You don't feel inferior and superior. You are not. It's not that you can't make friends easily, and you don't feel that everybody criticizes you. It's not that you cannot feel intimacy with others. What's happening is fear arises. Fear arises, you identify with it, you think, I'm afraid, and therefore, oh my gosh, I've got a problem. Now, if you just saw it as fear, you'd be able to watch it arise and you say, oh, it came by itself and it disappeared by itself. It wasn't really mine. at all, and you feel quite free because it's like looking at a raging fire from afar. It's hot and that's bad, but I'm not standing in it. You can't feel inferior and superior to someone at the same time. That's impossible. But at certain times, feelings of superiority arise. At certain times, feelings of inferiority arise. Now, these are a product of a sense of or attachment to self. It's called conceit. It's unwholesome, but it's not something said about. It's something that you should see clearly and see the uselessness of. See that it's to your detriment to think such things. Wanting to feel intimacy is also a problem. So the desire to feel intimacy, you should watch when that arises. And really, I think it's misleading to think that we can ever be intimate with anyone. We're always an island. You never share other people's thoughts. Really, you never share their space. You just get really, really close. That's the best you can hope. But you're never in someone else's experience. We're not halves of a whole. We're complete beings. The best we can do is knock. Don't worry about intimacy. Meditation will help to diminish. It's kind of, the whole question is wrong. And it's right. I'm not really picking on you, but I want to help you to see that it's wrong. Because this is the kind of question anyone would ask, and other people have asked. But it's not my ego. You see, you've already made a mistake there. You can't ask someone, "How do I diminish my ego? Does this help to diminish my ego?" It's not. It's egotistical, right? It's a funny way of phrasing. And semantically, it's not a problem, but it hints to me that you do have ego problems, like most people do, in the sense, not that you're egotistical, but in the sense that you identify with things. You think of things as me, as mine, and it's not your ego. In fact, there is no ego whatsoever. Ego is just a concept that we use to talk about the set of experiences that arise that are associated with identification and comparison and view of self. Okay, let's stop after these two. I'll do yours and then I'll consider that last one, but I'm not convinced that I understand what's being asked. Okay, go.
Okay. Dear Bhante, I have heard that in Southeast Asia, specifically Sri Lanka, monks do not meditate with cushions and only with the sitting cloth. Is this true? What meditation position do Sri Lankan monks use when sitting on a sitting cloth?
Actually, Sri Lankans have gotten a little bit lax in the whole sitting thing for the most part. Many Sri Lankans, monks included, sit on chairs now. It's a big thing to sit on chairs. It's also a product of not doing a lot of meditation. So those monks in Sri Lanka who really do meditate are the hardcore monks who, like we were sitting on cement. When we did outdoor meditation, we just, sit on the cement in the pouring rain, that kind of thing. I've sat on wood. The thing about wood or cement is the balls of your ankle tend to cause pain, very sharp pain. You want to sit full lotus if you're sitting on the floor on a sitting. So if you're just sitting on a cloth on the hard floor, the full lotus. The problem is that most people can't do the full lotus, and even if you can, after some time it will tend to ache. But that's probably one of the reasons why the full lotus became popular, because it was used by people who were just going out and meditating in the forest and on rocks and so on mountains. That's not the only reason, but it's a good point anyway.
Can I just expand on that? Is there a difference in the general meditation cushions from like a Zazen tradition?
You can't say that. I mean, there's no. This tradition uses this tradition uses that. It's much more localized. I mean, even in monasteries, it depends on which monk you're talking about. It depends on their body as well. certain Zen or certain meditation centers will, and certain lineages will require, for the most part, the sitting mats, but it varies so greatly. You can't really say this tradition, that tradition. Yeah. So to say anything about the Sri Lankan monks is impossible. There's so many different groups. I was just talking recently, there's like 100 different Nikayas in Sri Lanka or something, or there's tens of them anyway. In Thailand we have maybe 4 if you count all the, well, 4 main groups, 5 maybe, 6. But you know, that's if they're all unofficial, so unofficially we probably have about 6, maybe more, but I'm going to go with 6. Officially there's only in Thailand. And even then, every monastery, every monk has a different way of sitting. Nope, we got more questions popping up. All right, let's get on Dylan's first. I'm going to read these. I'll just bring them up and we'll see if they're any good.
Okay. Sorry for my poor wording in the last one. I'm trying to
I think
say
it's your fault. I think it's just me.
I'm trying to say that I have issues with getting pervading thoughts to leave my mind. I have tried mantras and removing myself from the thought of it. It generally doesn't help.
Right, because that's not what it's supposed to do. The thought isn't the problem. Your reaction to the thought is the problem. There's no problem with the thought staying, going, turning around in circles. That's inconsequential. What is consequential is how you react to it. The fact that you don't like the thought, the fact that you want the thought to go away, those are the problem. Thought is just reality. Once you see thought for what it is, you reject it. You have no use for it. So the fact that you want the thought to go away is the problem. That's what's keeping it from actually going away. Is you have some tension there, which creates all sorts of neural pathways, strengthens neural pathways, and actually brings the thought back again and again. Okay. Done. Oh, okay, I'm leaving now. At 6:30 I'm going. This one also gone. We'll take this last one from Chop and then we're gone. Okay?
Okay.
It's an hour and a half is my limit.
For some reason, meditation helped me to overcome myself in a way that the fear of death doesn't bother me. But people close to me are dying, and I have the urge to force Buddhism on them, even though I am far from enlightened. But am I in a position to help?
Well, forcing things on people or yourself is un-Buddhist. So you can't force Buddhism on people. It's kind of oxymoronic or paradoxical. I don't know what you call it, but it's hypocritical, I suppose, or it's counterproductive. It's the word. Getting someone to let go, let go, let go. Make yourself let go, kind of thing. You can't do it. Letting go has to come naturally, to come from oneself. So what you can do is be an example for people. You be like a shady tree that people can rest under if they're feeling hot, but only if they're feeling hot. To come to it themselves. If they have questions and want answers, you can answer if you know the answer. Okay, I'm not answering that one because I said that was the last one. So thank you, everyone. Good questions. 33 viewers, which is great. It's good to see we have this constant audience even when I'm not around and not announcing it and everything. And we had a panel, sort of. We have to work out the mic thing. Aaron, if you could get like one of these lapel mics, something that you can actually isolate your sound from the whirring of your computer. Be good. And Robin, of course, thank you for all your help.
Thank you.
And Anna, thank you for being a local audience and pushing me to come down here. And what do you guys think? Is this nicer than doing it up in my room, or is this just kind of weird?
That's much nicer. I saw your live interview, and I was reading the comments, and someone made fun of your curtains.
Mm,
They said they were ugly, which that wasn't very nice. But
that's not
that's
very
a much
nice.
nicer background.
My poor curtains would be terribly offended to hear that.
But it made me laugh because they're beige, so they're like opaque beige, neutral.
I didn't use them.
Well,
But
thank you. If this
yeah,
is your last show before your trip, have a wonderful trip.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only reason is that I'm bringing my camera to Thailand, and I might be packing. I don't think so. I don't think I'll be packing up. I might be packing and leaving it with someone to bring to this point, because I'm going to visit my father, and I don't want to bring all my luggage to visit my father because that's crazy. So I have to somehow get all my luggage to meet me at the airport magically. I'm not sure how to do that yet. Anyway, that's all for tonight. I'm gonna sign off.